We're just gonna ignore him. Hey guys, it's Kozak and welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, I'm an author of dark urban fantasy and I'm currently working on my debut novel entitled The Network, which is actually what I'm going to be talking about today. So for a while, I've been wanting to do a more in-depth introduction to my work in progress, talking about the story origin, the characters, all that sort of thing. And as luck would have it, the amazing RaiBShaw tagged me to do the behind the book tag, originally created by Mandi Lynn. I'm going to link both of their channels and their videos down below so that you can go watch and enjoy. Thanks for tagging me, Rayleigh. I really appreciate it. So without further ado, I'm going to jump into the video and answer the first question. I have my trusty notebook that you've seen many times on my channel if you've been watching my videos. And here is the first question. It is, what is my book about and what genre is it? So I've given a short, like super short blurb about my book a couple times, I think. I don't remember in which videos, but I'm going to expound on it a little bit so that you kind of have a better idea exactly what it's about. So just to start off, the genre is urban fantasy. I usually say dark urban fantasy because it does have kind of a gritty, emotional feel to it rather than just a lighthearted adventure fantasy, if that makes sense. So the premise of The Network is that the main character, Thomas Finnegan, a half-blood dark elf, is working as a vampire hunter and not very successfully. Shortly before finishing his contract in the US Army, Finnegan's mother is killed by a vampire. Finnegan's mother was a very talented and renowned vampire huntress, and so the event kind of inspires him after he leaves the military and feels like he doesn't have any purpose or direction to pursue a career in vampire hunting as well. One of the snags for Finnegan is because he has such diluted magical blood, he doesn't have very powerful magic, and so he has a hard time being a successful vampire hunter. So when the story begins, he's pretty much living from paycheck to paycheck and feeling pretty down on himself. Everything changes when Finnegan is given the choice between taking care of two unfortunate humans that accidentally discovered the magical world, or giving up his career in vampire hunting and being forced to live on the other side, which is the magical realm. Because he resents the council, which is the government on the other side, he decides to take the two humans and attempt to continue his career as a vampire hunter. So these three make an unlikely team and have to work together to fulfill his mission. The other two main characters are Stanislav Pudovkin, who is a hacker for the Russian mafia, and Fedor Stepanyak, who is a short order cook from Lviv, Ukraine. I don't want to give away any spoilers, so I'm going to end the premise there and move on to the next question. So I'm going to actually answer questions 2 and 3 together because just as far as my story origins go, they kind of go hand in hand. So the questions are, was my story inspired by anything in real life? Question 3 is, why did I start writing this story? So my memory is pretty poor, but in either the summer between 6th and 7th grade or 7th and 8th grade, I went to a church summer camp and met a girl that was also into fantasy, dragons, vampires, werewolves, elves, all that shebang, and also was a writer. So we became fast friends and exchanged emails and decided to stay in contact. So during that school year, after school was over and homework was over, at the end of the day, we would get on Gmail and there's like a chat function on there and we would just chat back and forth. And I don't remember what exactly spurred it, but we started having like a chat battle back and forth just for fun. So it kind of reminded me of like Pokemon, if that makes sense, where we had these monsters we would throw into the battle and we'd keep adding new characters and it was just all over the place. And as we kept doing this fight, is what we called it, it developed a plot, character arcs, a setting, a villain, all these different things. And eventually, instead of just fighting back and forth for the fun of it, we were writing a story together. The character Finnegan actually comes from this. He was only a side character in this story, but his original concept began there. Finnegan started as like the most generic, brooding, dark, strong, action-y type character you can imagine. He was pretty 2D, nothing really special about him, nothing memorable, but that's the kind of character I was known for back then. In fact, that's the criticism I've taken with me throughout the years is I had actually that same friend tell me that all of my characters were the same, which was actually true. I wrote the same male character just with different physical attributes and a different country of origin sometimes, but it was the same character every time. But Finnegan's origins were there. So my friend and I didn't go to the same school, but I took what we were writing to my friends at school and they started reading it and really enjoyed it because they were also into fantasy and stories like that. Because of this, all my friends got together and started making characters for themselves that my friend and I put into the story and had like fun little side adventures with. So I think I had my own character, 2 or 3 friends at school had their own characters, and then of course my friend with whom I was writing the story had her character. And I remember my character was basically the emulation of everything I thought was cool at the time. I was like wannabe emo. I wasn't actually emo. I was very much on the, oh, black and gray is cool. I like high tops. Emo bands are cool. My Chemical Romance and all that kind of jazz, but I wasn't actually emo. But basically, I created a dark elf character for myself that dressed like an emo, was like really grungy and hardcore, and that's what I thought was cool. And I took those kind of attributes and applied them to Finnegan, who was like the fictional big brother to my character. So my friends and I had a ton of fun with that, and it went on for pretty much all of junior high until we kind of went our separate ways, went to different high schools and all that kind of jazz. But it was a great time, and I have a lot of fun memories from that. So you won't be able to see this very well, but we used to all do drawings of the characters in the story, and I'll try to point out. So this was the character I made for myself. There's Finnegan, who at that point, he was a full dark elf. I hadn't developed my magical world yet, so there was nothing like half-blood or human about him, so he's got like the ears and everything. And then we've got a couple of my friends, another one of my friends, and then these characters, many of them did not survive into my later stories. Here's another one of the character I made for myself. So one of the things about dark elves is I made their ears really long, and there was the concept that their ears would like move up and down like a dog depending on their mood. So that was kind of a fun, silly concept. However, that hasn't carried over to my magical world today. I'll show you guys one more. So that was my character, and then we had like a side dark elf teenager boy character that my friend and I would like tease in the story. Pretty silly teenager stuff, but it was a lot of fun. So I think 1 or 2 years later, I started writing my own separate novel, which I entitled Wolf's Bounty. It was very dramatic. I made this on the computer with my skilled non-Photoshop, whatever knockoff program I was using, skills. So Wolf's Bounty is actually where the idea of my magical world came from, which is called The Other Side. So The Other Side, I know, is not a super unique, interesting name for a magical world. It's actually a tribute to my dad. It's the name of a song by the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and we both really like that song. I learned how to play it for him, yada, yada, yada. So, like I said, it's a tribute to my dad, and I've kept it over the years. So the main character of Wolf's Bounty was pretty much Finnegan with a different appearance. He wasn't a dark elf, but he was kind of the same generic action hero. It's just a generic vampire tale. He is a human that discovers the magical world. He figures out there's evil vampires, and he has to go on a mission to kill the most evil vampire. Oh, so scary, so unique. Yeah. Even though that story concept is really boring and flawed, I'm grateful for it because that's where my magical world came from, and I've taken it and it developed it further from there. So I've got Finnegan, I've got The Other Side, but where on earth did Feder and Stas come from? Let me explain. It's kind of weird and random. So when I went to college, I dated a guy for a couple months that was really into video games. Now, I played video games before, but they were always the more casual, like Nintendo type video games. Not super immersive, not super strong story, more like just fighting or, you know, racing with your friends or something like that. However, I got really into Assassin's Creed, which if you've played those, they have a pretty strong story. They've got developed characters, you know, beautiful settings, all that kind of thing. So I started from there, taking old ideas and bringing in new ideas, and I came up with a vampire hunting game with 3 main characters. I was really interested in the concept of having a single player game, but different characters you would play throughout the game. So each one would have their own strengths that would be applicable to whatever level you were working on. So I took Vin again because he was a character I still loved and who'd been with me for so many years. And then from Wolf's Bounty, I took the character, I think his name was Fyodor, which is actually the Russian version of Fedor. So I took him and I changed him into Stas, which is the Russian mafia character, and then I added a Ukrainian character, Fedor, the short order cook, and I had these 3 characters that you choose to play, and each one had their own like special abilities and stuff. But as I kind of worked on it and tried to outline and plan out levels and stuff, I realized, sure, I enjoy playing a video game, but I like to write prose. I like short stories, I like novels, all that kind of jazz, so designing a video game really just wasn't for me. However, I didn't let the story die. I took the idea with me, and over the last 2, 3, 4 years, I don't have a good memory, I've just been kind of brainstorming, adding ideas here and there, but not really doing anything with the idea. All of that changed this year, 2018. As a little bit of background, before this year, I was in a super long writing slump. It was almost 4 years long, where, I dabble in like poetry or a little prose here and there, but I never sat down and actually worked on one of my novels for 4 years. It was ridiculous. I won't go into why that happened. I think that'll be a video for another time, but that's kind of what was going on before this year. So at the beginning of the year, I tried to get back into writing, tried to write 1,000 words a day for a month, which is not a good idea if you haven't been writing for 4 years, and so that failed. I kept trying again and failing, trying again and failing, and then finally in May, I thought I need some way to make myself accountable. So I decided I was going to make a little YouTube channel, make an announcement video for June that I was going to write 250 words every day for the entire month of June, and then I would post it, and maybe some people would come on there and support me and keep me accountable. And it actually happened, and that kind of kick-started me getting back into writing officially. Then in July, I did Camp NaNoWriMo, which made me decide to do the actual full National Novel Writing Month this past November. And for my project, I thought I would do the network. I would finally write this story that had literally had parts of it in my head since when I was a kid. Well, if you've watched my Nano wrap-up video, you know that I actually did it. I wrote 50,000 words in the network, although I did not finish the novel yet. So in the month of December, that's actually what I'm working on. I'm trying to write between 30 and 40,000 words to get to the end of the first draft. Wish me luck. I know that was really long-winded, but the origin of the network is really complex and dynamic since it kind of spans different stories, different times in my life, and all that. So there it is. All right, I'll try to wrap up this video. The final question is, what do I hope to make readers think or feel? So I feel like this is sometimes an area where fantasy isn't taken seriously. People think it's silly, it's not something that can really make people reflect or bring up real applicable problems in life. However, I don't think that's true. I think that fantasy almost has the power to do that better than just general fiction, because you can take a real life concept, idea, or something that's happening now, put it in a fantasy world and expound upon it, reveal things about it, and make people think much more than you might be able to do with just the idea or the event as it is in real life. So this is a really difficult question to answer, because I think it goes a lot deeper than just talking about what genres interest you, what your character looks like, or that sort of thing. It goes into why a particular writer chose to write. One of the overarching themes of my writing, that's in almost everything I write, is loss. I feel very strong ties to family, including the people that have passed on, and so it's something that I like to incorporate in my stories. What I really want my readers to feel is the immenseness and power of the human family, and to just be filled with love and empathy, because if you can feel awful and sad and grief-stricken about a fictional character being ripped out of a story and dying, then how much more so should you be affected by, a horrible event that happens in the world, or, a neighbor being killed in a drunk driving accident or something. So for me, it's all about the human experience of making connections and caring about other people. I hope that all made sense. Emotions are really hard to put into words. That's why a lot of times people say show don't tell, because sometimes it's more powerful than just attempting to say it straight out. But that is what I would like my readers to feel when they read The Network. Well, on that sad note, I guess I'll wrap up the video. I really hope you enjoyed hearing me discuss the origins of The Network, as well as kind of talk about my journey from, the teenager that was just writing a silly fight story with her friend, to the person I am today who's trying to create characters and stories and settings that make people reflect on themselves and on the people around them. Thank you for watching this video. I'm sorry it was so long-winded, but obviously if you're a writer, you understand sometimes it's fun to just talk about your story because you love it so much. If you enjoyed this video and you want to hear about my journey from first draft through troubleshooting, editing, revisions, all the way to hopefully publication someday of my novel, The Network, then go ahead and subscribe to my channel. I'd love to have you here. Also, if you have a channel that you want me to support, let me know down in the comments so that I can go check it out. I hope you guys have an amazing day and a lovely holiday season. And as always, happy writing. Bye.